I went to surprise my wife, Rachel, at her office with a box of eclairs from her favorite bakery. She's the CEO of Bright Path Media. I walked into the lobby expecting to head up, hand her the pastries, and make her smile. A security guard stopped me. I told him I was there to see Mrs. Davis, the CEO, and that I was her husband. He said the CEO's name was Mrs. Johnson and pointed out her husband, who was walking through the lobby right then. I turned and saw Rachel with a tall, well-dressed man. She laughed at something he said, and he was carrying her briefcase. The guard greeted the man like they knew each other. He called him Mr. Johnson and said he always carried the CEO's bag. Rachel and the man got into an elevator together. The doors closed. I stood there with the pastries, confused and embarrassed. I left the building, went across the street to a coffee shop, and watched the entrance. I kept thinking there had to be an explanation, but my mind kept jumping to the worst one, that Rachel had another husband. An hour later, I saw them leave together and head to the parking garage. I called a rideshare and asked the driver, Victor, to follow their car. He shook his head but did it. They drove to an expensive restaurant called the Vine Terrace. It's the kind of place you need connections to get into. I watched them through the window. They sat at a table near the glass. They looked comfortable. Rachel straightened his tie. Then she twirled pasta and fed him a bite. My stomach dropped. I filmed a few seconds through the window, then went back to Victor's car. I said out loud, she fed him pasta because it felt like proof that I had misread my own life. I went home. I spent the evening and most of the night online looking up the man. His name was Evan Johnson, Bright Path's chief operating officer. His resume was impressive. I found photos of him and Rachel at a leadership retreat 6 months earlier. I hadn't known she'd gone to a beach. She'd told me it was a short conference in the city. I convinced myself they were involved. I started a notes file with facts and theories. One theory was that I was wrong and needed help. I made a burner Instagram and scrolled old photos. Around dawn, I finally slept. In the morning, there was a note from Rachel. Didn't want to wake you. Love you. R. I made coffee and opened Bright Path's website. There was a banner for a public career fair the next day. I decided I would go to ask questions without seeming suspicious. At the fair, I blended in with the crowd and walked from booth to booth. I spotted Rachel's assistant, Maya. I told her I was interested in executive office roles and said I'd heard good things about Rachel and Evan. She smiled and said they were work soulmates. She said they were inseparable. Meetings, lunches, business trips. I felt sick. Then I heard Rachel say my name. She had seen me. She led me down the hall to Evan's office. We went in. Evan stood, recognized me, and shook my hand. He already knew why I was there. Rachel had told him about the restaurant and the following and the career fair. He was kind about it. He explained the pasta. His boyfriend, Marcus, has him on a strict diet. Rachel teases him and had fed him a bite to make him laugh. He said if I'd stayed 30 more seconds, I would have seen him text Marcus to confess. Marcus walked in with coffee. He greeted me warmly. He and Evan have been together for years. The framed photo on Evan's desk was him and Marcus with their dogs. We all sat and talked. They teased me, but gently. Evan said Rachel talks about me all the time. Marcus said my behavior was embarrassing, but also showed I cared. We ended up laughing. By the time we left, I was relieved and exhausted. Rachel squeezed my hand in the elevator and told me to ask questions next time. Over the next weeks, things settled down. Evan added me to a group chat with him, Marcus, and Rachel. They called it the Johnson-Davis Alliance. They sent jokes about my detective work. I tried to take it in stride. One morning, Rachel handed me a fancy invitation. It was for the opening of the Davis Wing at Mercy Hospital, a new pediatric unit funded by the Johnson Family Foundation and Bright Path Media, with our name on it because of a donation we'd made 2 years earlier. After a big consulting project, I'd said we should do something meaningful with part of the money. Rachel had worked with Evan and his family's foundation to turn it into a larger gift. His nephew had survived cancer, and the family wanted to support pediatric care. The wing had taken 2 years to plan and build. We went to the opening. The wing was bright and calm with murals and family rooms. I met Evan's sister, Victoria, and her son, Theo. There were speeches. Rachel spoke about me in front of everyone, which made me nervous but proud. After the ceremony, Theo asked if I wanted to help set up the new gaming room for the kids. I did. It felt good to do something useful. I started volunteering at the Davis Wing on weekends. The kids began calling me the pajama guy because I wore comfortable pants with cartoon tacos one Saturday. The nickname stuck. I played games with kids, read to them, and helped staff with little tasks. Evan and Marcus visited sometimes with pizza. Maya came by and reminded me of the career fair incident, which had already become an office joke. Even Derek, the security guard from that first day, showed up in street clothes. His daughter, Emma, was a patient. We apologized to each other and let it go. Volunteering changed my perspective. The problems I had created with my suspicion felt small next to what these families were facing. I found purpose in showing up, being steady, and helping kids laugh for a while. It also reminded me what I liked about myself and my marriage. 6 months after what Rachel called the great husband confusion of 2025, life was better. We started couples therapy to work on communication. Our therapist said jumping to worst-case scenarios had become a habit for me. I agreed. I tried to slow down and ask questions instead of making assumptions. Evan and Marcus became friends, not just people in a group chat. They stopped by for dinner. They texted photos of their dogs in seasonal outfits. We attended a few company events together. At home, Rachel sometimes visited the wing after work to say hi. She watched me read to kids or set up the game systems and smiled in a way that made the hard parts of the year feel worth it. I still hear about the pasta incident. At parties, the story comes up. The punchline is that I watched my wife feed her coworker and jumped to the wrong conclusion. The real ending is that I learned to speak up sooner, that we built something good at a hospital, and that I found a place to help. Sometimes Rachel will say, "Remember when you thought I was married to Evan Johnson?" I'll say, "Remember when you fed him pasta?" We laugh now. We can because we're fine. The people who were strangers in the lobby are part of our lives. The wing with our name on it is full of kids and families and nurses who do real work every day. I still wear the taco pajamas on weekends. The kids think they're funny. So does Rachel. When I leave the hospital after a shift, the air feels clearer. I go home and the door opens and my wife is there. That's the only fact that matters.